Happy Wednesday night. This is Scott Morganroth, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. Yes, indeed, I'm the Motor City Madmouth. Had a good Motor City Madmouth show as Adam Lichtenstein, who covers the Miami Hurricanes, had an opportunity to join me. With that said, we have a basketball edition here on the Sports Exchange. I want to welcome Candy Ebling. Welcome, Candy.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me. Let's talk some March Madness.
Yeah, we're going to be doing that. All right, JBLS.
What's going on? How we doing tonight?
We're doing all right. You know, I'm playing baseball. I've had a lot of interesting curveballs, and you know what? Somehow, some way, we're going to hit it out of the park tonight. And last but not least, George Eichhorn, Lozo 22, late show tonight. Yeah, things happen. Johnny Carson didn't make it here. Joshua Dora, late start this evening. Well, so be it. It wasn't due to weather by any means. All right. Good night, everybody. Good night, Blazo. Thanks for hanging in there with us. We appreciate it. All right. It's all basketball tonight. That's all you need to know, folks. Stay with us, and we'll get to the different layers that we have of it. First of all, we're going to start out in Wisconsin. Okay. NBA coaching changes in season. The Milwaukee Bucks made one, firing Adrian Griffin, who was 30-13, replacing him with Doc Rivers, 15-14. All right, Candy, we got to start with you on this one. You like the move?
You know, it's hard to say because did we give Griffin a shot long enough? You know, Doc Rivers, everybody keeps saying he's not a playoff contender coach. That may be true. In today's day and age, though, I think these NBA players, I don't know how much you can really coach them anyways. I think some of these top players have their own mindset, and so I'm not so sure. Was it a good move? A lot of people think no. Some people would say yes. He has proven that he has, coached to the playoffs and gotten teams to the playoffs. Now, the Bucks shouldn't have had any trouble getting to the playoffs, no matter who's coaching them. With the amount of salary that they have and the success that they've had, and adding Damian Lillard this year, I think either coach coaching them would have taken them to the playoffs. Now, obviously, they're not there yet. They're not first in the conference, so it'll be interesting to see. I think the jury is still out, and I think it depends on how far they go in the playoffs. Because remember, last year they were the first ones out. So I think the jury's still out if they can get past the first round or so. But I'm going to have a wait and see. And
okay,
we're talking NBA right now. We're not talking March Madness just yet.
Yeah, and Rebecca. Oh, look at Rebecca. Scott with all the baseball puns. You know it, Rebecca. You've known me a while. That's why I wear baseball hats. I don't wear any other thing. But Rebecca, glad to have you on the broadcast tonight. Really is. Keep those things going. We want to make sure all of our people are dressed throughout the broadcast. All right. So with that said, went from Candy. We're going to go to George Eichhorn on the Bucks.
Well, the Bucks are, they're still in the number 2 seed right now. I mean, they're going to end up either the 2nd or 3rd seed probably. Cleveland is snipping at their heels there. They're only a game and a half behind the Bucks in the standings. I agree with Candy. I think, we got to wait and see how the postseason, turns out before agreeing with that Doc Rivers is a better coach. I'm concerned about, if I were Milwaukee right now, I'm concerned about the fact that they're obviously not going to be the number 1 seed. The Celtics are going to get that in the East. But also there's about 7 teams that have better away records right now than Milwaukee. They've got to improve on that 18-20 road record right now. The Bucks have a lot of teams in the East have, 19-20 or above as far as road victories go this year. And it's important. Why do I say that? It's important because, the home court advantage can be very misleading in the playoffs, as we know. Right. The away teams very often win, whether it's a short series or a long series. So you have to be on your heels, and you got to win. You got to win some games on the road, more likely than not every single series. Very rarely do we see a sweep or rarely do we see a sweep on one's home court. So the Bucks, yeah, they're still up there as far as being a contender, and I'm not going to discount them at all. I've always liked Doc Rivers as a man, as a basketball man, and as a coach. And I know he doesn't have the most successful record in his career history, but I think he'll do well leading the Bucks, Scott and Candy and JB into the playoffs.
All right, Candy, Rebecca has a question. Where can I get a Motor City Madmouth hat?
We're working on those to be. We'll let you know on a later date. Although we're really doing the South Florida Tribune, but we'll figure out how to do a Motor City Madmouth too. So
Yeah, I'm working on a deal right now with a potential person, so we'll release that as soon as we get it. We have a call that we have to make on Friday night. So, Rebecca, hang in there. Keep communicating with me. If you want a Motor City Madmouth hat, I'll be more than happy to let you go ahead and wear that hat if you want to. Hey, Detroit can use all the respect they can get. So Motor City with Rebecca, no problem. All right, we'll leave it to JB Ellis. Some thoughts about the Bucks.
We're talking about the Yucks.
Yeah.
The Milwaukee Yucks. I mean, they got Doc Rivers, so they're not going to win a championship until they get a new coach. The guy is not a good coach in the playoffs.
Right.
They probably have the best player in the NBA with Giannis. They got one of the most exciting point guards with Lillard, but all when it comes down to it, they hired a guy who can't win in the playoffs. He helped ruin Ben Simmons' career. Not that it was much of a career beforehand, but he did an awful job with the PR on that. And that all comes back down to the head coach and how they speak to the media. He consistently cracks in the playoffs. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was a Bucks fan having him as the head coach. I'd rather, wait for next year. Maybe they get somebody different after they collapse in the playoffs.
All right, Candy, put the Rebecca comment up. I like this one. Hell yeah, Scott, we will have a cool hat exchange at the Black Rock soon. You know what? Rebecca, remember this acronym, GMTA. Great minds think alike. Okay, Rebecca? No problem. Looking forward to that day when it does so. The only thing I'll say about it is this. The modern day NBA player, to me, I can't stomach them. Okay. They get more coaches fired for whatever reason because they can't play with them. They're pampered and all that. You know what? To me, got to have a veteran guy. Okay. Got to have this and that. Okay. Why don't you just play to your capabilities? Okay. Instead of worry about who's on the bench. Obviously, some coaches aren't qualified to go out there and do the job. But let me tell you something. Doc, like Joe mentioned, okay, that Doc Rivers, aside from his one championship in Boston, hasn't done anything since he's left there. I remember when the Pistons played Orlando, that the Pistons came back from a 3-1 deficit to win the series, and Tracy McGrady had that series all but won. So, yeah, and only to find out the Pistons came back. So, hey, listen, Doc Rivers coaching the Bucks is one thing, okay, but bear in mind, he used to play for Marquette. So to some extent, he had Milwaukee ties. Does that mean anything or not? I don't even know. Won't even go that deep into it. But let's just chalk it up to the players. They don't know who they want to play for. They just have to play to their capabilities. All right. Well, we'll move on here. Okay. Joshua Dorr says James Rigby is the Bucks' best asset. Candy, is there any teeth to this?
No.
Okay. All right, Josh, there you go. So there's no teeth to this. All right, let's go to the Lady Vols. I don't get a chance to talk to them about them, but this week they fired women's basketball coach Kellie Harper, who's 46 years of age, after 5 seasons leading the program. Her record at Tennessee was 108-52 with a 675 mark and 53-24 in the SEC, 688. But here's the thing about Kell, okay? The pressure will never be an easy situation to do of replacing Patsummitt. This is UCLA all over again as the Bruins went through a lot of coaches to replace John Wooden. All right, JB.
Listen, I mean, you can't replace a legend. It's not possible. The expectations were too high. Right now, women's basketball, especially in college, is having a renaissance. People are paying attention to it. And unfortunately, it's hard to be as good as Pat Summitt wasn't when she was there at the end. She wasn't even the best coach at the time. Genoauriemma was in UConn. So, Tennessee wasn't getting the top tier people, and now there's other coaches and other schools that are doing that. So, Tennessee is not getting what it got previously, unfortunately. I don't think that she's a bad coach. I just think can't replace a legend. It's always the toughest thing to do. She'll get another job, she'll do well, and she'll win wherever she goes. But it was a tough spot to take the position and a tough spot to be in.
All right, let's go to C. He said, all right, here comments on me. All right, look at this guy. Started late, but looks as sharp as if we're 9 a.m. and just had a cup of coffee. Mighty kind of you to say Diet Mountain Dews. My drink is Joshua and Blake. No, but it is what it is. Diet Dr. Pepper. I've had that recently too, so it's okay. All right, so with that, I have anything with caffeine related into it is all right. Although I have to admit, at Black Rock last week, when they didn't have my strawberry margarita frozen, I did opt to go to wine. All right. With that said, I won't whine anymore. I'll turn it over to George Eichhorn and talk about legends replacing legends. Oh my goodness, that happens a lot. But let's talk about the Tennessee situation.
Well, yeah, I think JB, you nailed it. I mean, it is very difficult, and it's hard to replace a legend, no matter where you're at. We've seen it happen in sports, and especially in basketball as well. But I will tell you this: that you got to just go back to what brought you there. Solid recruiting, good interviews. Going after the best female basketball players in high school, and doing all the great things that you need to do as a team, as a coach, to try to turn the situation around. And hey, we all know that there's only four teams that are going to be standing when the women's Final Four field is taking shape and forming itself in Cleveland at that beautiful arena they got down there. But Tennessee is going to be back. I know they're going to be back. It's not that they're going to fall apart or anything like that. A school like that with such a good reputation for women's basketball is bound to come back. But yeah, we've seen it all over in basketball, especially, when guys like Riley and Jackson and Chuck Daly and great coaches like that leave. It is a big void. It is tough to fill those shoes. So, but I think that, they regroup and go at it again and have a good year next year. They should be okay.
All right, back to the chat room real quick. Josh Adora. Well, George Eichhorn, you got a fan here. It's him.
Hey, thank you, Joshua.
Good to see you. All right, and of course, let's go to Blow. All right, we'll put that one up. I think it's just UC. All right. Blozo 22. JB, what are your thoughts on Tesla stock? Do you know anything about Tesla stock?
All stocks are gambling. Most of the time you make money if you listen to the right people. I'm not the right guy for that.
Okay, interesting. Me either. But all right, let's go to the C, or maybe drink too much kvass. What is that? I don't know. Me either. You don't have a bunch of alcoholics on this broadcast. Okay.
No.
All right. So who do we got left? Candy, you want to talk about the Tennessee opening? And bear in mind, that's a good program all around with the men's. Rick Barnes has done a great job with the men's program. And I had a chance to talk to Rick Barnes when he was at Texas. And, but Candy, go ahead.
So I'm going to first address C in the chat. She says George's camera is blurry, or is it just me? No, there's a setting that you can blur your background. So that's what he did. It's like a virtual background. So he's not blurry, but if he's not real focused, if he moves out, then yes, it kind of seems blurry. But it's just a virtual background that he has with his computer. So going back to Tennessee, let's face it. The number 6 seed Lady Vols were eliminated by number 3 North Carolina State in the second round of March Madness. A 3-time champion with Tennessee as a player, Harper was hired as the team's bench boss back in 2019. She went 108-52 with the Lady Vols, leading the program to 4 straight NCAA tournaments, including back-to-back Sweet 16 berths in 22 and 23. She says it had been an honor to serve at her alma mater and to coach a Lady Vol program that she loves so dearly. She's grateful for the opportunity. Now, what I thought was kind of interesting is White then came back and said that he is going to seek input from current Tennessee players. Let's face it, the reason why he has to do that these days is NIL. because if he doesn't, the transfer portal will be so quickly on, girls will be so quickly on that transfer portal, because we've seen it in other teams. When a coach leaves, some of those players all of a sudden quick leave. So now these athletic directors, when they're thinking about replacing coaches, they're going to start asking for the input of the players, which I find very interesting, because let's face it, years ago, you never, ever would have asked the players, who do you want to coach you? You would find the coach that you thought was the best fit for you and your program, and you'd have the players would come play for that coach. Now you've got to recruit your current players, and you've got to recruit a coach. So I find that just very interesting that he is going to seek the input from some of his players.
All right, so let's go back to C. What's up? We are up there, C. All right, and thank you, Candy. Candy knows all about the technology. Good work. Let me tell you, Blozo. Without Candy, we'd be in deep trouble. All right, Joshua Dore. Wow, she's a champ. I didn't know her, but she sounds like a great resume. And the last one from Joshua Dore. Do you think there is too big of a revolving door with players and coaches moving? I know there is, but that's just the way the times are. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
No, I think it's quite obvious, Scott. Yeah, I mean, we have a revolving door, and what the old saying about the inmates running the asylum on some of these teams where they have the power to get rid of their coach because he doesn't do that or she doesn't do this or that.
All right, Candy, let's take after you're done, we'll take a station break.
Okay, I was going to say, I think what has gone by the wayside is actually going to the school for the education. Because now it's all about playing, and who do you want to play for, and where do you want to play, and what coach, depending on what your future goal is. Is your future goal to be in the WNBA, or is it to be in the NBA? Because if it is, then yes, you're going to look for the best opportunity what program is going to get you there. Whereas I think back when I went to school and went to college, you thought of the program, yes, but it wasn't so much that you would hop, skip, and jump and transfer and move schools and nearly as much. So, who needs an education anyway? Well, from what I've always been told, the saying is, it's not what you know, but who you know, and did you get that degree? Because it really doesn't matter as much anymore what degree you get, as long as you get a degree. Joshua Dore, you bought your degree? Well, good for you, I guess, but I guess the rest of us can be proud if we got our degrees. Because I do have my degree, and I'm very proud of it that I earned it the hard way. So as far as a station identification, if you see the red subscribe button in that lower red corner, that means you have not subscribed to this channel yet. And I honestly do not know why, because we have all kinds of great programming. Monday nights, we talk about baseball. Tuesday nights are football. Wednesday nights, we come up with everything from cornhole to basketball to NFL. You name it, we talk about it. Thursday nights is Fire Up and Pundits Pun It, where you never know where we might be talking about too. If you'd like to listen to the broadcast, we are on wherever you get your podcast. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, you name it, we're there. If you'd ever want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. And the other thing that we want to put out there, Scott wrote this book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. Go out and get it today. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, what's up, Jesse Stuber? I knew you'd make it in here. Good stuff. Good flow to the show. And we're going to continue on to more ladies basketball. After all, it's definitely one of the hot things going on right now. Caitlin-Clark got a revenge versus LSU Monday as number one Iowa top LSU 94-87. In a game, get this, okay, that averaged 12.3 million viewers. Now, I'll take it a step further, okay? That's more than every women's college basketball game ever, every ESPN college football or college basketball game ever, every MLB game last season, every MLS game last season, every NBA game last season except the last one, and every college football regular season game last season. So I'll tell you one thing. You talk about the drawing power of Caitlin-Clark. My goodness. You know, that's unbelievable what she's done. Now, here's another sidebar to this whole thing with her. Okay. Caitlin-Clark wanted to go to UConn, but genoauriemma never once showed up to Clark's open gyms or even talked to Clark or her family about going to UConn. Well, guess what? Okay, if synergy plays its way, these two schools are going to meet in the semifinals. All right, Candy, well, you start. We started. We left off with you. We're going to start. Caitlin-Clark is on a mission.
She is, and she's proven that she's a natural talent and that she's drawing crowds. Everybody, I mean, let's face it, she's scored a lot of points. She's playing really good ball. She said that they were just flowing. You know, she said when she went out and warm up and the first 3-pointer she shot, she hit. You kind of know when you're on. Kind of like a pitcher, I would think. You know, if you know you have your stuff that night, she did. Let's face it, last year LSU took them out and they lost to LSU, so this was kind of payback for them. Good to see women's sports getting so much attention, and it was a good game. Like, it wasn't a one-sided 20-point blowout or anything like that. So good for the sport, good for basketball, good for women's sports, good for Iowa. All around win. And both her and Angel have both declared for the draft. So that'll be interesting because that follows the final game. I believe the final game is Sunday. And then I think Monday is the WNBA draft already. So good for them.
Okay, we'll turn it over to George.
Yeah, this woman is phenomenal, and the whole drama of the rematch, and it's just a tremendous shot in the arm for women's athletics. Like you said, Scott, they've surpassed all these other sports that we have known to watch and love watching them. Most of us do, and the ratings have just been off the charts. Here's a young lady that 41 points, 40 minutes of action, 41 points, 12 assists, field goal percentage, okay, a little bit below her average, 44.8. But look at these numbers in the tournament so far. She's got 41 points, 29 points, 32 points, and 27. So she's on an upward trajectory. This last game, 41. Who knows? Maybe she even hit 50 someday, but I don't know if it'll come this weekend. It's just a great ambassador for the game, a great young lady that's going to obviously have, I would think, a great career in the WNBA. It's just a great renaissance, like JB called it. A renaissance of women's athletics is the NCAA women's basketball right now. So hats off to her teammates, because she can't do it alone. The Iowa Hawkeyes are going for something that they really have their sights on, and that's the championship.
All right, let's go to Rebecca. Is there a show that covers women's sports? You know what, Rebecca, I don't have one on my network, but what I wanted to do tonight is I wanted to really test the waters, okay, to see about the level of interest in women's sports. And if I feel that we're able to go out there and I see some positive results, I'll start mentioning women's topics so that I'm able to cover both genders. But no, that's an excellent question, Rebecca. There really is. So, and I know that there's an Audie Crook reference out here. All I'm going to say about Audie Crook is that will be a hot topic talked about on tomorrow's edition of Pundit. So if you can hang in there with us tomorrow, we'll talk about Audie Crooks. That's a storyline in itself. Let's continue to go ahead through the chat room. Okay, I know Rebecca, George looks kind of blurry. I thought Candy had mentioned it. I think she should. Now, Blozo says she should play in the NBA with those stats. Okay. Yeah, well, you know what? I've never seen a woman play in the NBA, and I know that there are a lot of more games there. I know that the pounding would be significant over there. And the only woman that I personally think could have played in the NBA might have been Becky Hammond, because she's such a smart player who could have played the guard position. But again, that's just my opinion. But you know what? I want to go around the horn with this one. First of all, was there anybody that I left out
Yeah.
here about? So go ahead.
So, I mean, listen, Caitlin Clark, phenomenal. I don't think Iowa's winning the championship. They're going to play UConn. Their season's going to be over. We'll see how her game progresses to the WNBA. I don't think she can play in the NBA. I think Cheryl Miller would have been the woman that could have played in the NBA. She taught her brother Reggie basically how to play it. We all know how good Reggie
Right.
Miller was when he played, and Cheryl was way better than he was. But that's no disrespect to Caitlin Clark. She's just, I don't think, it's a different game, the men's game and the women's game. I think the women's game is technically a much more fundamental game. I actually, that's how you learn how to play basketball is, when you're young and you're learning how to play. That's how the women's game stays throughout the courses as it goes. It's a much more enjoyable game. But do I think that she would be an NBA player? No, I don't think that she would translate to it. I don't even know how good of a WNBA player she's going to be. That's a
Right.
big jump. There are some great players in the WNBA. She's great right now against college players. We see it happen with the NBA all the time. These guys that are phenomenal, and then they get to the NBA, they just fizzle out. I hope she doesn't. I would love to see her play well. It'd be a great story, but there's no guarantee on that. It happens all the time in sports. You dominate one league, you've got to move up, and it just doesn't happen.
Okay, can anybody answer this question from Joshua? Is there fighting in the women's NHL? I don't follow the sport, so I have no idea. I don't have an answer for them. But
I don't know either. They played one game in Detroit, Scott. They were at Little Caesars Arena. The Boston team played, I believe, Quebec or Montreal,
Right.
and they drew a good crowd. 14,000 people came out, but unfortunately, I didn't see the game, so I can't answer that, whether they allow fighting.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to ask you this question from Rebecca because you were around it longer than I am. What's a pundit mean?
So a pundit's a guy that always has a opinion usually. So Jacob is the pundit's pundit. So he's like the number one pundit.
Right.
Uh,
So you're talking about an individual that's significantly opinionated.
Pretty much.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay. All right, onward we go. We'll talk about the women's Final Four. You talk about a hot ticket. This is it. On the resale market, they're selling for average of $2,300, twice as much as the men. All right, JB, does that surprise you?
No, I think that the women's tournament this year has been more exciting. More people have paid attention. I think it's the better tournament, so it doesn't surprise me that ticket prices would be up.
Okay. All right. What about you, George?
No, I'm not too surprised, only in the fact that what we just talked about, where, the women's game has been elevated to a new status and a new enthusiasm by the fans, sports fans across America, and that's women and men. And I think it's just been an exciting tournament. I know a lot of games are televised. I'm happy to see that. And it goes without saying that this is definitely a sport on the rise. So it's going to be a fun time. The Final Four that Cleveland gets a chance to host. So looking forward to that this weekend.
Candy?
I was just trying to look up. There is fighting in women's hockey. So yes, that the answer to that question is yes. Am I surprised that the ticket prices are as high as they are? No, because it's popular right now. It's the thing to do. They've been playing really well. Again, like LSU's coach, Kim Malarkey, whether you like her or not, she says Caitlin Clark is a generational player. Who wouldn't want to go out and see a generational player that's hit the most threes in women's basketball? She's scored how many points? She's setting records. So people these days want to go out and see that. They want to pay money to see those things. They want to pay money. They want to see the big sporting events. And I'm proud and happy to say that the Final Four for the women's tournament is one of those events. I mean, I would say 10 years ago, nobody would be talking about the women's Final Four in college basketball. Women's sports has skyrocketed, and I'm happy to finally see that.
I agree. I mean, let's think about it. A lot of us are talking about it. We all know that World Cup soccer with the women in the United States has done an unbelievable job winning that particular title all the time. The men's will never probably win it in my lifetime because to me, they haven't given me any reason to think otherwise. And a lot of the foreign teams are better. But the women's basketball, can only imagine how good they're going to be in the Olympics. And that's another thing that Caitlin mentioned as well. Her main objectives right now are simply to play in the Summer Olympics and the WNBA. So, and of course, Josh, here you go. In women's golf, Kelly Korda had 3 wins in a row. So I appreciate you giving that information as well. So the reality is this, okay? It starts with basketball. The Women's World Cup has been great. Now you have hockey coming on. I think as time goes on, you're going to find that the women's will be a lot more. And yeah, I think the women's tournament is a lot better. Doesn't Ion Television also televise some WNBA games, Candy, I believe?
They did, yes.
Yeah, so they're getting a little bit of respect on that level as well. So more power to them. They're having a great run. All right, well, everybody's anxious to go ahead. All right, well, I had a feeling there would be a Caitlynjenner reference to it, and I don't mind that kind of humor. I really don't, because everybody in this panel knows who Caitlynjenner is. Bruce, once upon a time, going to return to sports, I would say no. Joe?
I have no clue. If he does, he does. If he doesn't, or she, whatever Caitlin likes to be called, whatever makes Caitlin happy. JB Ellis has no opinion on it.
Yeah, but you know what, Rebecca? I like that question. I mean, it does kind of go in with the theme of what we're talking about. I'm not going to go the other way in terms of the trans word, but you know what? That's still pretty good stuff. All right, good job, Rebecca. All right, well, I mean, these will be briefer answers before we get to predictions. George, what do you think about the whatever?
Well, I do remember Bruce Jenner, and he was definitely a terrific Olympian. He did this country proud, his gold medal, and just was a fantastic athlete. But no, I don't see Caitlin being able to do that or come close to it. Number one is the age factor. And number two, the issue that the elephant in the room that people don't want to talk about, and that's whether they should be allowed on the same playing field. So I'm not going to get into that, but I do have great memories of Bruce Jenner and winning that gold medal. I believe it was in Los Angeles.
Yeah, 1984. I was at those games, but never saw the track and field competition.
Yeah.
So, all right, Candy, what are your thoughts? Thanks a lot for the kind words. Love the segments. Thanks for showing the numbers, Scott. You're very welcome. All right, go ahead, Candy. What are your thoughts?
So Caitlyn Jenner was born October 28th, 1949. So really, do we think that they are going to compete at a level in any sport at this point? No. And she has come out to say that she doesn't think that transgender should be allowed to go into the sport and compete against the same. So I get it. Respectfully, everybody has a right to their own opinion, but do I think that she is going to compete at any level? No.
All right, Joshua Doors we got some great comments. Let's put the last 4 up, or 5 actually, up to C, and then we'll love this segment. Thanks for showing the numbers, Scott. You're welcome. GMT, Rebecca, gosh, you're a brilliant woman. Catches on quick. All right, keep them rolling. Unfair, I don't know. We'll see what your next comment is. Fair, unfair, it is what it is. All right, well, now it's predictions time. I know a lot of people were asking earlier, but we saved the predictions for last. And, we're going to start off with the men's because we're going to leave the women for last because they pretty much dominated this whole show, as they should, because we've had some great storylines with them. All right, you know what, George Eichhorn, you're up at the top, and you're going to be able to, Connecticut, Alabama, who you got?
Well, I'm going to pick sentimental choice, and that's Alabama. And I have a couple of my nieces that go to that school, and obviously that school's been a great athletic institution. and in football, but basketball, not so much, obviously. So they're kind of like one of these upstarts, but that would be an upset. But I am going to go with Alabama to beat UConn, but a very close score. I'm going to say something like 78-72.
Okay. And Purdue against NC State.
Well, on paper, Purdue should be able to walk away with this game. I mean, NC State, God love them, they're 11 seed, but Purdue's a number one. The fans have been waiting in West Lafayette for God knows how many years. I thought back in the 1980s, the last time they won with Gene Cady. So I'm really hoping for Purdue victory, only because I think they have the better team, but they also have something to really prove. Having been knocked out early rounds the last several years in the NCAA Sweet 16, the tournament itself. So I'm going to go with Purdue. I'm going to go something like about 81 to 70.
So who's your national champion?
Well,
you knew that was coming next, right?
I'm still going to go with Purdue. I'll go with Purdue for the national title. Thank you.
All right, Candy, you're next.
Connecticut is too tough. Connecticut's going to blow past Alabama, I think. Purdue is going to have a tough time, I think, against NC State. NC State's the underdog that everybody wants to root for, but Purdue's playing awfully tough right now. I think Purdue will take that one. And then I am a Big Ten girl, so I would love to see Purdue win, but I am not predicting Purdue to take it all. I'm predicting UConn. They just look way too tough.
Well, a little bit of a sidebar there too, Candy. Didn't your dad go to Purdue University?
He did.
That's
where he got his master's.
Yeah. So who do you have winning it all?
UConn.
Okay. All right, Joe.
I would love to see NC State win both the men's and women's basketball tournaments because it'd be a great story. It's the first time ever there's been two schools in both the men's and women's basketball tournament in history. UConn's been there twice and won it on both sides before, but this is the first time two schools are in both Final Fours. Listen, for the men's Final Four, Alabama's not going to win. Cross them out. NC State's a wild card. They have no pressure at this point, but they're not going to win the championship. Purdue is part of the Big Ten fraud program. They'll eventually collapse because if they're not Michigan State, they don't really ever win a title. So that leaves UConn as the best school in the country right now in men's basketball.
Well, it doesn't hurt. You saw them in the Big East tournament either, so you saw them firsthand.
Listen, Purdue is a good team, but until they actually win, they're part of that Big Ten fraud program. Where they get a lot of teams in the tournament every year and collapse. And Purdue did it last year as a 1 seed, losing to a 16 seed. This year they got all the way to the Final Four. But Zach Edey's a phenomenal player. But I just have no faith in him, and I think UConn's just better either way if they meet him.
Well, remember, once upon a time, Virginia got knocked out being from a 16 seed. They bounced back to win it all. So if history comes into play, you would think Purdue should win it all. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a different perspective that nobody will give you. And I have it written. There's my reason why. I would love to see Alabama win it over Connecticut. But my reasons why are a lot different than yours. I've just taken on a young student named Kate Eichison, who actually is going to be contributing for us with the South Florida Tribune, and I'll bring her on a show. And I told her that if Alabama wins it all, she's going to join us here on the Sports Exchange and give us the Alabama version of how things are going. She'll write stories and contribute from time to time. I'd love to see them win it all. Now, do I think they'll win it all? No. But, it's okay to root for a young journalist in the sports media to come on your show when she lives in one of the four places. So I think UConn will win it, but I am kind of pulling for Alabama. Now, Purdue and NC State, you know what? You're right, Joe. NC State's been a great ride both ways, and this was the first time they've been to the Final Four since 1983 when Jim Valvano was there. Can you imagine if they are able to pull it off again? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you one thing. NC State has been a good story all year, and they've beaten a lot of good teams all the way to getting into the Final Four. So I'm going to go with Purdue. I'm going to go with Connecticut anyways. 2 number ones is where it should end up, and we'll see where it goes from there. but I guess I'd have to ride the Connecticut train as well. They're playing good, and they have a chance to do something that no team has done since the University of Florida, and that's repeat as national champions. All right, great show tonight. Great participation in the chat room. I'm glad to see Rebecca in here tonight. Joshua Dorr, and of course the Lowe's. All right, the Lowe's have it. Go ahead and scroll up, Candy, so we can acknowledge all the people that participated tonight. Or do I have to do it? Either one.
No, I already did, but that you didn't see it when I did it, so you were talking.
Well,
so,
okay. So all right,
great
but anyways,
tonight.
there you go. Bring them all on there. Love the topics. Pulling Purdue. There you go, Joshua Dorr. All right, I love all these comments. They come from interesting places. Rebecca, we'll work on that. We'll work on that hat for you. I don't know if Jesse lives in Alabama. Although Jesse, I will tell you this, Joe. You know, I've been telling him you got to get a hold of JB Ellis. He's in charge of Confidential. I think he sent you a friend request, by the way. So you might want to look him up.
You're gonna have to follow me. I have the max amount of friends on Facebook.
Oh, damn. Well, there you go, Jesse. Follow him since he's loaded just like I am. I'm right near the max as well. So, meanwhile, with that said, as we get ready to wrap up the Sports Exchange, okay. Now, by the way, he does have a Cubs tattoo. I don't know if that qualifies him for getting on the show, but no, we don't expect him to show it on live air streaming, depending on where the location is. I'm leaving it alone while I can. All right, with that said, Joe, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
JB_ the program on X. Sideline Sports every Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Confidential every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And, of course, here every week.
Beautiful. Okay, George.
Well, first, I'd be remiss if I didn't congratulate one of the greatest Pistons of all time, Chauncey Billups. Congratulations, Chauncey. You're going to go into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. I'm happy for you. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or else find me on LinkedIn under my name as well. And also, I have a book. It's called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Where's the finger? Here. And that includes Scott Morganroth. And Scott and I go back over 40, 45 years together. And he's in the book as well. He got his start in sports broadcasting. And so did I at ABC's WXYZ. There's a link to purchase the book at the end of my column. I write for the sports fan. I write for the South Florida Tribune and then drill under Motor City Tribune. Thank you.
Done. You're welcome. By the way, you want to mention who else got in the Hall of Fame? Vince Carter got in as well. And I think Jerry West is in there for the third time as well. So good night, Joshua. Well done tonight. So we're going to mention those. I know a lot of those votes come out a little bit earlier. All right, Candy, take us home with our information.
So if you see that red subscribe button, please hit it, share us, like us, subscribe to Sidelines Sports YouTube channel as well. They have some great programming and they provide us with some great content and contribute to us. So please like them, share them as well. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Scott's written there. George is written there. I think I've even put some of JB's articles up on there. And I take pictures. So, go see all my pictures. If you have show ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. We would love to hear. We love all the participation in the chat room. That was awesome. If you like to listen to podcasts, go to iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Go buy Scott's book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, maybe more later to be determined. But honestly, if you like shows like this, Monday nights we talk baseball. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tuesday nights is Inside the Pigskin. We even have an ex-NFL player on the show. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange. You never know what we might be talking about. Yes, we didn't talk about cornhole tonight, but we have before. We've talked about hockey, women's sports, baseball, you name it. We've talked about it. Thursday nights is Pundits Pundit and Fire Up. And then you never know. Oh, the show that led into the show is the Motor City Mad Mal show, a show where Scott interviews one person. Tonight it happened to be a beat writer that he actually writes for the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and he writes about the Miami Hurricanes. And they are going to have their spring game coming up actually there's a lot of teams down here having their spring game April 13th. So and if anybody doesn't know what the spring game is, that's where the team plays one game during the spring to kind of set themselves up before and there's another transfer portal that hits, I believe, right after that. But that's where they play football. So that I know is happening April 13th. A lot of different teams, like I said, down here, the Hurricanes, FAU, and USF. All three of them have their spring game that day. I'm not so sure about the Gators or Florida State. I haven't checked into it, but we will be at one of those. We don't know which one yet. Maybe if we can hit two, we're going to try. But yes, if you want to sponsor a show or advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If I read any of that too quickly, it auto scrolls on the bottom of the screen. Just go back and pause the video and you can read it and get all those comments there. We've had a bunch of comments coming in late. Everybody was teasing me last night, asking me what kind of candy I'm going to be. Love candy, especially Skittles. Haha. And I'm glad you guys are all subscribed. I would hope you are, but I'm not sure if you guys subscribe to everybody else. Mad Mouse show was also great tonight. Awesome. And I do not know about UCF. The spring game, I'm not sure. But
cricket or croquet? No, I'm not so sure about that. I'd like to figure out what cricket is. All I know is it seems like
You've
it has
never
a
played
field.
cricket, Scott?
No, all I ever did was see him running around. But
I have actually played cricket before.
have you really? That field looks as big as a baseball field, but I don't know much about that one. So I think I'll defer on that. Sorry, pal.
Me too.
I don't have all the answers there.
And Blazo 22, how much does it cost to advertise? That's a question you can call Scott and he can give you that information. So thanks, C. You're welcome, and thanks for the comment. Appreciate it. Okay, Scott, back to you.
All right, thanks, Candy. Another show that'll be airing soon is called The Professor and the Pupil. George and I will be running that show. It looks like Jeremy Ballrick will be on there with us, and Spencer Thompson. Joe, you obviously got to meet Spencer last week, and when we go down to North Carolina in late June and July, you'll have a chance to meet a lot of quality people, Joe, and I'm looking forward to you being there with me, as well as our work at the NFL draft. So great show tonight. Yeah, fun it'll be tomorrow. Fire up. We appreciate everybody hanging there. We had a little late start, but we had some last minute business we had to take care of. But meanwhile, on behalf of George Eichhorn, JB Ellis, and Candy Abilene, my name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Man Mouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Sports Exchange. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Have a great week.
Enjoy March Madness.
Yeah.